feel like I'm abusing technology just to make a business. So like with software, think about like software. It's you can make copies of it,
Right.
and it doesn't cost you anything.
Stephen Blum, thank you for joining me on 20 Minute Leaders. It's been almost 7 years since we worked together last through the Hacking Generation Y company that I ran. How are you?
So good, amazing.
That was the same
Yeah.
response you gave me 7 years ago. So I'm glad that I'm glad that even though so much has changed in the then, you're being consistent. So I just love that, Stephen. You're the Chief Technology Officer of PubNub. I'm incredibly excited to learn more about what you guys are doing and diving into some of the things that really make you excited about the technology you're developing. But before that, I always love starting with the journey of the entrepreneur and the journey of the leader, because you have a phenomenal journey. You've worked at quite a few companies as lead senior developer and architecture. So tell me a little bit about what you're passionate about, and take me all the way back to your college days. How do you get excited about technology to the point where you are now?
Oh wow, yeah.
It's a lot. It's a
It's a
lot.
it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, really, it's all about that means to an end. So technology, sure, it's great, and it can get you to where you want to go. From what gets me excited, what really excites me is that business model. Right, I'm really attracted to that business
Really,
model. A way to like, yeah, attract
you
repeatable
don't
business.
hear that so much from chief technology officers, right?
Hmm. Yeah, so that's actually a good point. And I feel like I'm abusing technology just to make a business. So like the with software, think about like software. It's you can make copies of it,
Right,
and it doesn't cost you anything,
right,
right? Isn't that, I like that idea. That means production costs are pretty dang low.
right.
So how can we make that a business? And then how can we make that easily consumable? If you just press a button and you magically get, say, PubNub, for example, that's like the best possible business because it's like money in, easy, no problem. And it takes a little bit more than that. Like with a company like PubNub, there's of course that freemium model, right? So
Right.
it's like gives you the taste, make sure that it's what you're looking for, and gets you that aha moment. Oh, wait a second, I didn't know that's something that could be done. Like that's what one of my challenges is, trying to educate the market, saying this is something that you can do. And especially now with a lot of the work from home, we've seen a massive increase in
I'm
in our
sure.
graph or our traffic. Yeah,
Okay, so since
it's
we started on PubNub, what is PubNub? What service are you providing, and what is that aha moment that you're referring to that people already in the freemium model are getting?
yeah. So we're a communications platform that allows multiplayer gaming or delivery or Peloton bike experiences where you're shared in a classroom. And there's just so many like we have delivery services that use us. So it tracks the map, the car on the map as it's going by. Like how close is my Chipotle order? I'm hungry. I want it. I need it now. So that's the kinds of things that we take care of, and we do it really. We're better than everyone else doing it, and we're actually the world record holders in
Actually,
the largest online events. Yes,
what does that mean? Tell me about these world record holdings.
for the largest number of concurrent audience members in history, in human history, we hold for sporting events in a subsidiary of Disney. We powered their televised event, and millions, tens of millions of viewers were all connected with this shared experience and powered through our network. This sort of like a nice little badge of honor that we've
Steven,
achieved over the years.
you're sitting either at home if it's COVID or in your office if it's the regular life, and in real time you have tens of millions of people that are getting their data, getting their experience through PubNub, and it's a technology that you're responsible for. You are the leader of it. You're holding the technology stack, right? How is that scary? Is that fun?
Oh, it's exciting. There's just so much. But it's also a little, like you're saying, scary. Yeah, because we actually power airports and the fueling of planes, and we make phones ring, and really important messages. They go through the system, and we can't lose them. Like
Right.
if we lose them, some catastrophe is awaiting, and if like some big like we have to keep the innovating, right? We have to keep software moving. So we have to build a system
Right.
that is able to be updated while not dropping a single message.
Wow.
That's hard. That's scary. That's challenging. And that's what we're doing, and that's what we're really good at.
You mentioned the term educating the market before. Actually, a lot of the things that you've been referring to in this talk so far, I feel like it's things that I've been learning through all these different entrepreneurial courses at Stanford, or venture capital courses, or entrepreneurial courses, and Andreessen Horowitz articles, and you've condensed it into your PubNub journey, which I think is just inspiring. What is educating the market to you, and how did you need to educate the market to get PubNub to where it is today?
So it's the same challenge with every company. It doesn't really matter if you have like a very specific product or sort of a horizontal communications network like we
Hmm.
have. The challenge is finding a way to communicate with a specific industry and use case,
Okay.
right? So how I was describing the car on the map, right? That's going through, you can see how close your Chipotle order is. You need to have those stories. You need to relay them in a digital fashion in a way that's consumable for your audience, right? Your
Right.
target audience.
Right.
That's like the hardest part. And it feels scary to do that
Yeah.
because now you're like siloing your market, and it's like, but we're only going to capture this level of revenue, and then it's like, what about all this other sea of revenue over here? You're leaving it on the table. Actually, no, you're not, because you're going to laser focus, and you're going to nail that target. You're going to get those customers to that aha moment. You're going to be able to bring in more qualified leads, and then you can take that pattern. This is the cool part. This is the part I love. I love this. You can repeat it. You can repeat that pattern and go after all the rest of those industries and all those markets, and win at a much better rate. And that's critical. You have to do that verticalization.
So from what I understand, the majority of people fail at that laser focus part, right? So they may have a good product, they may have a good idea, they have a good sense of the market, but they fail to have that laser focus. And I'm thinking back to a first run article about Superhuman, where they talk about how they nailed down on their target market, and really were laser focused. What was that experience like for you? How do you become laser focused on a specific sub market of the sub market?
It's trial and error, but also there's a bigger hurdle. It's ourselves. It's ourselves,
Yeah,
because convincing ourselves to do it
of course.
is the biggest challenge. And we're a big team, right? And a lot of folks are responsible for getting those key metrics successful, right? We have targets and goals, and we have to hit those. And then if you just focus on one particular area, it might not. It's worrisome. So trying to like get us all on the same page to do that, that's been the number one
I
challenge. It's the
love that.
hardest problem.
I love
It's
it.
the hardest problem.
Steven, take me back 10 years. You're starting out PubNub. What was that like? Tell me that the founding story of PubNub.
So always been entrepreneurial, right? My family, my grandfather, they owned a local business in
Beautiful.
the city, and they sold pipe fittings and other types of utility systems. That I don't know if that inspired me or ingrained me into just being, oh, this is the way it needs to be. We just have a business and you go for it, and
Wow.
finding like an approach. There's always had that a desire. Wrote so with PubNub, just was like, ooh, this is a new way. Here's a problem. I want this phone over here, this phone, like I want this phone to talk to that thing over there, and I want it to be as easy as possible. How can I make that possible? How can I do that? Well, I didn't know much about networking. I didn't know much
Really?
about. Yeah, I was like, it was like, how can I make that easy? Okay, I need to learn about this. I need to learn about Linux kernel APIs. I need to learn about networking pass. What is an Ethernet frame? What does it look like on what's a TCP tuple, right? Can we do UDP? What is that? What is even that, right? So I had to figure all that stuff out. I didn't know. But I wanted it to be the best. right? I wanted it to have like all these technologies out there that allowed you to do communication had limitations.
Right.
Like like the AT&T network, they have so much hardware because the software is limited. I'm like, I don't want that limit. I don't want when I make phone ring across the world, I don't want it to wait 3 seconds because it has to go through all these switching boards. I want it to do as soon as you press your finger on the phone, the call button, I want it to ring on the other side. Like that's what my goal was. So like having that objective for like high quality and efficient, and then just being able to sell it as well without having any overhead. That was the goal. It's like creating a business that could do that and get people really excited. And then I could take it and then show people how cool it was on every single possible use case. That was the vision. That was the driver.
So I'm going back to the beginning. You're saying the technology for you as the chief technology officer is a means to an end. What you're really excited about is the impact that you're able to make, whether it's connecting tens of millions of people at a single point in time, or over the span of 10 years, really educating the market and becoming a market leader in this multiplayer communication. So back then, when you're talking about, you know, figuring out TCP, UDP, Ethernet frames. I mean, that's complicated stuff. That's not the stuff that the average person would just, on their Friday night sift through Wikipedia and, research papers and learn about. So there has to be a deep technological curiosity beyond just the means to an end, right?
You would think. You
Really?
would think. Maybe. Is it? So like would I do this for fun just for the heck of it, right? Like that would be kind of like the question. Maybe. I mean, I did some game development back in the day, and I thought that was pretty cool, right? Getting into video games.
You're breaking the whole
That
conception of what I think of a chief technology officer, Stephen. This is very difficult for me.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's I mean, I think even if no matter what your like approach is and your stance on technology and in your field as well, I think it comes down to what's driving you, what's pushing you forward, what's going to make sure that you're succeeding and you're always at the forefront. It happens that technology has to be there in order for you to accomplish it. If it was wizardry and magic, like I'd probably be doing that. But this is as close as we get.
This
We
is as
get we
close
get
as we get.
technology.
So Andreessen wrote the famous piece, "Software is eating the world." You're evidently a key figure in proving that software is eating the world. I love the analogy that you made to AT&T's hardware solution versus a software solution. Obviously, Andreessen, that's what he touches on, that the fact that you can scale at practically no cost and get exponential increase in usage for a relatively linear increase in cost. I mean, that's the name of the game. But it must not be that smooth of a journey over 10 years. It can't all be butterflies and whistles, right? So talk to me some of the hurdles that you passed through and how you overcame them.
Well, yeah, we're software and we're human since we make mistakes, but we're really good at realizing those mistakes.
Okay.
And that's probably like the best part of humanity is like I would say that's our strongest asset,
Hmm.
right? Is being able to recognize mistakes and fixing them. And we're not infallible. We've made mistakes. Some of our client SDKs are connectors to our network.
Hmm.
We're running on AT&T phones,
Hmm.
and there was an upgrade that they made, which caused some sort of incompatibility thing, and it made the device connect and disconnect over and over and over, and we had to create new cipher keys every single connection because we want to make sure the connection's secure. And then it caused, and it was a slow rollout, and they did an upgrade, and eventually all the phones, all the AT&T phones in America were doing this. They were doing connect disconnect over and over, and we're like, what's going on? We can't. We didn't have any logging at layer 5, and we didn't know. We just saw that the CPUs were going to the roof. We're like, what's going on? What's going on? it turned out that we had a faulty reconnect logic inside of our SDK for the particular SDK that AT&T was using on their phones. And in order to solve that, we had to get all AT&T's IP block space that they owned for the cell network and then route them to a specific destination so that way we can get the rest of the traffic healthy. It was That happened this year.
Wow.
That was this year. Yeah, and it was very tragic and it was very heartbreaking. And we did harm some of our customer relationships, but we were able to figure out what the problem was and we solved it. And in the future, if we were run into this again, we have the tools ready.
Right. I love going back to what you said, that as you know, humanity, or we're really good at, is identifying the mistakes we're making, and hopefully solving them. I don't think that, all of humanity is good at doing that. I can think of a few key examples where we're not necessarily good at doing that, but I love I love the fact that you are taking the lessons and being very direct about it, being very intentional about the lessons that you've learned there, owning that mistake, and improving upon it. And I think that's the responsibility of being a leader and a market leader in something as crucial as multiplayer communication. What were some of the most enjoyable moments of this 10-year journey as an entrepreneur?
That's working with the customers. That's still is today. Being able to see them like, wow, is it really that easy? Yeah, if I could make it easier, I would. I would, and I am working on that right now, making it easier, faster, better, stronger. That's we're not done yet, but just getting like some of our biggest customers are multiplayer games for mobile phones. They're
Wow.
they're they're huge, and they have the largest player base and the most loyal player base as
Right.
well. And so we need to make sure they're happy, right? Because we want to keep their revenues growing as well, our customers' revenue. And just being able to provide that and say, "This is us. We can do that for you," is very satisfying, right? It's very satisfying. I don't
Right.
know.
Are there some lessons that you learned as a technology leader in the company? Because you're both, obviously you're leading people, but you're also leading technology, and sometimes it feels that there's this like weird intermixing between the different roles of the CEO, the CTO, especially in core technology companies. How do you look at your role as a CTO in terms of leadership?
What's But by example, I would say probably. I mean, I kind of like think of it from that. I mean, if you're kind of going down like, because there's different flavors of CTOs if you ask, and this is actually common questions like, what do you do as CTO? Those kinds of things. Like, well, really, what are you asking really? Like, what are you trying to get at? Like, usually these are other technology folks who are asking me this question
Right.
that are either in that role or about to go in that role, and it's very different. Some are VPs of engineering, and they operate the team and sort of manage managers and sort of help structure that out and create like trajectories and career paths,
Right.
right? There's that kind. There's also innovators, right? So at a larger companies, you've got these principal engineers or
Right.
CTOs, and they look for the frontier. They're like,
Yes.
what's new? What's amazing? What can we do to our company to make it more secure, make it $1 billion richer,
Right.
right? With modern technologies, how can we inject those techs into? And so there's, for me though, I'm an entrepreneur. Like I said, a little different. So I focus on what can we do, what metrics can we monitor over the
Sure.
years, and for our teams to be able to be more successful, right? And to know that they're successful even before they get like a review, right? The annual review type situation. How do
100%.
we do that? How do we make the business scale? How do we solve training, right? Because for us though, it's really hard because the language is different.
Yeah.
Every single customer they come to us, they're like, we need real-time geography map updates. And now you've got a wholly different than multiplayer multiplayer connectivity, and I need to make sure that we have these technologies and we can filter these and we have this number. It's just a different conversation each time. So it's hard. So that's kind of things that we solve.
I love that. Steven, I wish we could talk on for another hour about this. It's just so fascinating. But unfortunately, for some weird reason, I called the show 20-minute leaders instead of hour-minute leaders. So thank you for being so generous with your time. I love to end with my favorite question, which is three words that you would use to describe yourself.
uh wait, that's like your hold on a second. That's one, that's a really hard one to do.
It's the
You should have
hardest
like
question.
prepared me for that one.
So
Maybe you did and I didn't read the email.
no, no, no. I apologize for that, but it is my favorite question. Obviously, I'm not holding you accountable for those three words. Off the top of your mind, what words come to you when you think of what is the type of leader you are? How would your co-founder, think of Stephen Blum?
Um, realization and overly excited.
I love that.
I'm holding back. Like,
I love
I'm
that.
holding back right now. I'm like,
I love that. Stephen, thank you so much. This was wonderful, really inspiring, and I love following your journey. Thank you for being a great supporter 7 years ago of my project. Yeah, I'm very, very thankful for that. And stay safe and stay healthy throughout this pandemic.
yeah, it's been great. Thank you. Thank you for the time. And same to you.
Thank you very much.